On March 25, 1941, at 9:23 a.m., 19-year-old Mavis Batey examined an encrypted Italian naval message at Bletchley Park. She faced an urgent challenge. If she couldn't break the code within 72 hours, thousands of British sailors would face mortal danger in the Mediterranean. Background and context. Mavis was a university dropout who had been working at Bletchley Park for only 6 months with no successful Enigma breaks to her name. At that time, 2,333 Italian sailors were unaware that their security protocols would soon be compromised by a teenage cryptanalyst with exceptional pattern recognition abilities. The working conditions at Bletchley Park were difficult. The converted stable building, known as the cottage, had inadequate heating, and staff could see their breath in the morning air. Mavis worked surrounded by stacks of encrypted Italian messages, hundreds of them deemed unbreakable and filed away as intelligence losses. Each represented British ships operating without vital information. The strategic situation. Britain desperately needed to crack Italian Naval Enigma. Mussolini's fleet was severely disrupting British supply convoys to Egypt, with ships being sunk at an alarming rate. February 1941 had seen 7 British cargo ships torpedoed and 340 sailors drowned. March proved even worse, with 9 ships lost in 3 weeks and 450 sailors killed. General Wavell in Cairo was running critically low on supplies, with fuel reserves down to just 12 days. If the convoys couldn't get through, Britain risked losing North Africa entirely. The mathematical challenge. For 18 months, Britain's finest cryptanalysts had made no progress on Italian Naval Enigma. The encryption system appeared mathematically unbreakable, with daily key changes and billions of possible combinations. The system used 3 rotor wheels, each with 26 positions, and a plug board with 10 pairs of letter swaps. The number of possible daily settings was 159 quintillion. Mavis worked under Dilly Mox, a legendary codebreaker who had cracked Russian codes in 1917 and German codes in 1918. However, Enigma was proving insurmountable even for him. Knox's team had attempted every standard approach: mathematical attacks, frequency analysis, and pattern recognition. Nothing succeeded because Italian operators followed their encryption protocols meticulously. Personal stakes. Mavis had a deeply personal motivation for her work. Her older brother, Geoffrey, aged 23, served as a communications officer aboard HMS York in the Mediterranean. His recent letters had revealed growing fear, something he had never expressed before. He described sailing blind with no intelligence about Italian fleet movements. Geoffrey's convoy was scheduled to depart Malta on March 30th, just days away, carrying ammunition and fuel, a high-value target. Every unbroken code represented her brother sailing into potential danger. Educational background. Mavis had dropped out of University College London in September 1940, where she had been studying German. Her professors recognized her gift for identifying linguistic patterns that native speakers often missed. She grew up in Dulwich, South London, in a middle-class family. Throughout her childhood, she had demonstrated exceptional pattern recognition abilities with word games and crossword puzzles. When war began, her German professor recommended her to the Government Code and Cipher School. After a peculiar interview focusing on pattern recognition and discretion, she received orders to report to Bletchley Park in October 1940. She arrived with no cryptography training or mathematics beyond basic algebra, only her gift for pattern recognition and determination to contribute to the war effort. Knox's approach. Knox didn't teach traditional cryptography. He emphasized intuition and understanding human operators rather than pure mathematics. He believed Enigma required understanding operator habits, laziness, and predictable patterns. He instructed his team that while mathematics shows what's possible, intuition reveals what actually happens. Knox had observed that Italian operators were less meticulous than their German counterparts. He believed they would eventually make a mistake that could provide an opening. However, there was a significant problem. British intelligence command had officially ordered Knox to stop working on Italian Naval Enigma in February, declaring it unbreakable and directing resources towards German military codes instead. Knox ignored the order and continued his work in secret. Everyone in the cottage understood they were violating direct orders. If discovered, Knox would be reassigned or dismissed, and his entire research section could be shut down. The breakthrough. On March 25 at 8:47 a.m., an encrypted message arrived from Italian Supermarina headquarters in Rome, destined for Admiral Angelo Iachino's flagship, the heavy cruiser Vittorio Veneto. Mavis intercepted it during routine work. After 36 minutes of analysis, at 9:23 a.m., she noticed something extraordinary in the encrypted text. 6 letters, SQPPBN, appeared at character position 47 and again at position 87. This should have been impossible with Enigma's design, as the rotors advance with each keystroke, making identical encryptions of the same plaintext astronomically unlikely. Mavis theorized that the Italian operator had been lazy and used the same filler word twice, possibly PERX, meaning 4x, or 2x, a common Italian padding phrase. If correct, she could work backward from the known plaintext to discover the encryption key. Validation and risk. Mavis presented her findings to Knox, who understood the implications immediately. He gave her permission to proceed, knowing both their careers were at stake. She had approximately 24 hours before command discovered what they were working on. If they had no results by 0800 hours, the team would be reassigned. Remembering Knox's teaching about Italian operators' fondness for PERX as filler, Mavis spent 4 hours working through the mathematics, testing rotor combinations and checking plugboard possibilities. At 1847, she believed she had solved it. Knox examined her calculations for 3 minutes before deciding to verify them. Using a captured Italian Enigma machine, he configured it according to Mavis's specifications. The machine produced clean Italian plaintext. The first line read, Flotta attacco Creta, Marzo 27. Fleet, attack Crete, March 27th. They had broken Italian Naval Enigma. The intelligence revealed. The decoded messages revealed that Italian Supermarina was ordering Admiral Iachino to deploy his entire battle fleet. 3 heavy cruisers, 2 destroyers, and air cover, the most powerful Italian naval force assembled since 1940. The target was British convoys near Crete, with departure scheduled for March 27th at 1800 hours. The Italians planned a major ambush that would have succeeded perfectly had British forces remained uninformed. The deception. Admiral Sir Andrew Cunningham understood that Italian spies were monitoring Alexandria harbor. If his fleet suddenly departed in battle formation, Italian intelligence would alert Admiral Iachino. On March 27th, Cunningham played golf at the Alexandria Sporting Club, ensuring Italian agents saw him relaxed and casual. His luggage was publicly delivered to his residence, and he announced he would spend the night ashore. At 1900 hours, Cunningham quietly boarded his flagship, HMS Warspite. His entire fleet had been secretly preparing for 48 hours, 3 battleships, 1 aircraft carrier, 4 light cruisers, and 13 destroyers. They sailed at 1930 under cover of darkness with no lights and radio silence. British intelligence continued decoding Italian messages throughout March 27th and 28th. Mavis worked 16-hour shifts, with each new message revealing more details about Italian positions, course changes, and radio communications. Cunningham knew exactly where Iachino would be at every moment. The Battle of Cape Matapan. The Italian fleet departed Taranto on schedule at 1800 on March 27th, led by the battleship Vittorio Veneto with 3 heavy cruisers, Fiume, Zara, Pola, and 2 destroyers, Alfieri and Carducci. They sailed confidently toward Crete, expecting to ambush defenseless British convoys. On March 28th, at 0812, British aircraft from HMS Formidable spotted the Italian fleet. Admiral Iachino, realizing he had been detected, ordered his fleet to turn northwest toward Italy. At 10:30, British torpedo bombers launched their first strike. Despite heavy defensive fire that shot down 3 aircraft, 1 torpedo struck the Vittorio Veneto on the port side near the engine room. The explosion created a 30-foot hole, flooding the engine room and reducing the battleship's speed from 28 knots to 12 knots. The heavy cruiser Pola also sustained damage and became immobile. Admiral Iachino made the fateful decision to order the cruisers Fiume and Zara to turn back and protect the Pola, unknowingly sending them directly toward Cunningham's waiting battleships. At 22:27, British destroyers detected the Italian rescue ships on radar. The Italians, lacking radar, couldn't see the British ships in the darkness. Cunningham positioned his battleships just 3,800 yards away, point-blank range. At 22:28, massive searchlights illuminated the Italian cruisers. For 3 seconds, the Italian crews stood frozen, blinded and confused. Then HMS Warspite fired the first salvo at 22:28 and 15 seconds. 5 15-inch armor-piercing shells, each weighing 1,900 pounds, struck the Fiume mid-ship. The cruiser's internal structure disintegrated, with ammunition magazines igniting and secondary explosions tearing the ship apart. The Fiume was effectively destroyed in the first 20 seconds. HMS Valiant fired 4 seconds later at the Zara, scoring 4 direct hits. The bridge exploded, killing Admiral Cattiano instantly. A heavy boiler room took a direct hit, killing 140 men. The Italian cruisers attempted to return fire but couldn't see their targets and missed by hundreds of yards. British battleships fired methodically every 30 seconds. At 22:47, the Fiume's main magazine exploded, disintegrating the forward half of the ship. The vessel sank at 23:15 with 730 Italian sailors aboard, most dying instantly. Oil fires on the water surface burned survivors. The Zara continued taking hits for 4 hours. British battleships fired 113 shells with 90 direct hits. She sank at 2:40 with 783 sailors aboard. The destroyers Alfieri and Carducci attempted to defend the cruisers, but their torpedoes missed. British destroyers counterattacked. The Alfieri broke in half and sank in 4 minutes, killing 240 sailors. The Carducci exploded after 3 torpedo hits, killing 215 sailors. British destroyers approached the disabled Pola at 400 and evacuated 258 Italian sailors before torpedoing the cruiser, which sank at 410. Aftermath. When dawn broke on March 29th, the Mediterranean contained thousands of Italian survivors clinging to debris. British destroyers rescued 900 men, but German aircraft appeared at 8:30, forcing Cunningham to withdraw. Behind them, 1,400 Italian sailors remained in the water. Italian vessels later rescued another 160 sailors. The rest drowned. The Battle of Cape Matapan resulted in 2,303 Italian sailors killed and 5 Italian warships destroyed. British losses totaled 3 men killed when an aircraft crashed during operations. Investigation and consequences. Italian Naval Command investigated extensively but found no obvious security breaches. One surviving operator mentioned using standard filler words, possibly perks, twice in the same message on March 25th, but this seemed inconsequential since Enigma should encrypt each instance differently. The Italians never suspected that a statistical anomaly in rotor mechanics had caused both instances to encrypt identically, a 1 in 10 million chance, or that a 19-year-old British cryptanalyst had noticed that pattern, broken their encryption, and enabled a devastating trap. The Italian sailors who died at Cape Matapan never knew that their radio operator's repeated use of the same filler word had betrayed them, or that a teenage British cryptanalyst had spotted that pattern, broken their encryption, and enabled a devastating trap.